These
these
coasters are ghosters. Whoa, look at it coming up out of there.
Nice.
Good time.
All right, so ready for the Halloween episode?
I am very ready for the Halloween episode.
So we're going to do an intro for this one.
Okay.
Because I'm really excited for this one because we're going to watch movies. We're going to do a first themed episode.
Okay.
And our first theme is going to be the theme of Dan O'Bannon.
Oh, God.
So we're watching Aliens.
No.
Watching Aliens.
No. He did one other one that you might know.
Total Recall.
Not that one either. The first movie we're going to watch is we're going to go with movies he directed, not that he just wrote. First one is...
So B-side. The Resurrection.
No, read it again. Take it back. Read it again.
The Resurrected. The Resurrected.
Resurrection.
The Resurrection. It's so good, I've never heard of it.
Exactly. So this movie I probably haven't seen since I was 14. But I found it, so we're going to watch it.
Starring John Terry, Jane Sibet, and Chris Sarandon. Also, people I've never heard of.
All right, do you want to read? Well, you'll recognize the lead actor.
Since the beginning of time, man has struggled with death. Now Charles Dexter Ward, Chris Sarandon, a wealthy scientist, may have found a way to beat it using an ancient diary and human remains. Ward begins a terrifying and bloody pursuit for immortality. By the time his wife, Claire, hires a private investigator, John March, to halt the horrible experiments, it's too late! The dead have been resurrected.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, let's go watch it.
Pretty sure I saw this in the theater.
Your hair looks amazing.
So, as a guest star today, we have Val Kilmer.
No.
One he's a brunette.
I'm Chris Knight. I hope so because I'm wearing his underwear. All right, so want to get right into it?
Sure.
All right, I'll start. The first movie I forced you guys to watch, The Resurrected.
Charles Ward's escaped.
How did he get out?
Looks like he went out the window. Thank you for your patience and for your solicitude.
I must have raw meat. Not disgusting. Seared, burned flesh. It is the blood. I must have the blood. Your kitchen drains the blood from the meat.
Just to be expected. The dead take much blood.
Of course, you couldn't go.
And as for thee, I shall strip thy flesh from thy bones like a suckling pig.
So we went with a theme this time.
That's your dingle balls hitting together.
We went with the theme. So this time, I kind of tricked you. I mentioned we were watching movies of Dan O'Bannon.
Yeah, I got really excited for like Aliens or Total Recall.
Nope.
And that didn't happen because he wrote those, but he didn't direct those, and I didn't catch that.
Correct. I may have hid that on purpose. So he only directed, I think, 3 movies, and we are watching 2 of them.
What was the third one? Do you know?
The third one was I wanted to think it was like an early sci-fi movie.
I don't know who it is, but if you know who it is, you have to put it down in the comments below and then you get points.
Also remember to smash like and subscribe.
Smash like and subscribe, but put it in the comments below if you know what it is, and the first person to get it gets points.
Points.
Yeah.
What points?
People love their points.
I hate what I see.
This is the dumbest shit.
Yeah, so let's get back on topic. So Dan O'Bannon. So yeah, he's directed 2 movies. Now, this one was actually written by H.P. Lovecraft, but I think he kind of doctored the script and...
100%. Like, I've read everything H.P. Lovecraft wrote, and this wasn't exactly any H.P. Lovecraft, but was so influenced by it, especially later in the film, which we'll get to eventually when the grandfather character comes into it.
Well, I mean, yeah. So how it starts out at the very beginning, we start out in a mental hospital inside a padded room.
Like you do.
Yes, where this, I guess he's a PI.
Yeah, well, he was totally a PI.
He was a private investigator.
Very,
yes.
very moonlighting, but not as awesome as.
But not as awesome.
So it was like a soap opera PI.
Yeah,
Soap opera actor PI.
Come in, Mrs. Ward.
But he ends up in this, and the guy who was in the hospital had disappeared. When he gets in there, he sees there's a giant burn
on the ground.
On the ground, blood, and the windows open, and look like he just escaped out the window.
Yeah, and then the rest of the film is sort of a flashback of what led to that event.
Right. So I'll say I saw this probably when I was 12 or 13. Okay, do you remember back?
Show of hands for anyone who's never seen this before today.
Oh yeah. Oh hey.
Okay, so the two of you.
So when I saw this, do you remember back a long time ago when you had cable TV? When people actually still had that, HBO would do the occasional free weekend.
We are Penn and Teller, and this is HBO's free preview weekend.
Yeah.
Where they show you HBO for a weekend, so it's like, this is what you're missing.
Tempting you.
And this was one that I saw on that late night. And I remember being a little kid because towards the end of the movie, there's a lot of some stop motion, a lot of gore. And this was my introduction to like gore. Like, oh, what is this? Yeah. So it was really, this movie left an impact on me, but I didn't know what it was called. And it probably took me a good 10 to 12 years to figure out what this was.
That happened so much in the 80s, back before the internet, when you had to like do some research, go to the video store, try to find it, and you couldn't find it there.
The only reason I found it is I vaguely remembered the guy from Fright Night was in it.
Fool.
And that's how I pieced it together. I was like, oh, that's right, the vampire from Fright Night was in it. And I tracked it down, went through his whole list, and found this one.
Yeah.
That guy, just like Julian Sands, he has such a very specific way he speaks.
Yeah. And everything he's in, like, I mean, Fright Night, he made Fright Night too.
He made Fright Night.
Sally, I need your help more than anyone.
But I know the noise. I'm sure it's
The only person that bothers it is you.
I'm actually having so much fun with it.
It has made me laugh a few times.
We love your dingle
Embrace
balls.
the costume.
We love your dingle balls.
I love Toxic Waste and pizza.
And pizza.
I mean, it fits.
Yeah.
It's appropriate.
So that's how I saw it, was on free HBO, and I finally tracked it down. And from a few years ago, it wasn't in production. It wasn't until Scream Factory got a hold of it, because I could never find it. It was not print anywhere. I think I found a Region 2 DVD from Germany available at one point. And then I found this one. I was really excited. So I was like, I know this was probably one of the first ones that I knew would be on the show. And
Really?
Yeah, because
This
I haven't seen it since I was a kid.
Oh.
And I was like, is this good? I don't remember if it was good or not. I just remember really liking it as a kid.
That's kind of our niche, right? Forgotten,
exactly,
but great.
So this was the one I knew had to be on the show. And when I found out it was Dan O'Bannon who directed it, I was like, he made this one and then my all-time favorite. So we'll do a first theme episode.
The Return of the Living Dead is your all-time favorite
movie? Yes, that movie is one of the greats. I mean, we'll get into that because
yeah.
That's a different show.
Yeah. Well, no, it's a show. Just part 2 of our discussion.
I liked this one because the practical effects were so good. And when I was a little kid, it scared the living shit out of me. That's why I liked it.
The practical effects in this were awesome, and that's a wonderful trait of the late 80s, early 90s, is fabrication technology, molding had gotten to a point where you could have these small mom and pop shops making amazing one-off things that were like a real human corpse or like a real car or something, and they're just blowing shit up that took them a weekend to put together.
Yeah.
And they were
with no money.
And they were within the budget of a smaller budget film.
Well, I mean, also, too, you had, like, K&B and all those companies who are just now coming up who were kind of... I mean, this was 84. I mean, that was when...
Long before.
I mean, this is when all those new companies were coming up trying to... let's just face it, everyone was trying to outdo the Thing.
Right.
Everyone saw the Thing, and everyone's like, "This is what we need to do."
Howard, so B, the Howard Berger of KMB, was around when this came up, but he wasn't working on movies like this. This is Todd Masters. This is a different guy, and brilliant.
Guy.
I think Todd Masters is a genius. Like I've met him a few times and asked him questions and stuff. He's an amazing, and the thing is like you can do how much he can do with so little money and stuff like that was really inspiring to me as a makeup artist. But it really did scare the shit out of me when I was a kid.
I mean, not to jump to the end, but the ending, which I can't show because it's gonna be too gory for YouTube. But the effects on there were B+, A- until the optical came in, and then the optical light effects kind of.
You can 100% show the rotoscoping effects in YouTube, and it'll be fine.
Yeah, the lighting effects kind of ruined it, but all the actual practical effects that he did were just phenomenal. But because it looked like maybe something they needed to extend it or make it longer, or that's why they added all those opticals at the end because they were just really bright flashes, and it just didn't fit with.
But that one scene used techniques from both that you can readily remember from Hellraiser when you had the corpse on the floor and that kind of animation combined with like the wax melting and then playing that in reverse that you get from like Indiana Jones.
Right, but the optical effects, it looked like 2001. Like it looked like the opticals from 2001, and they just, to me, just didn't fit. That when he did such a good job on the practicals, a lot of the opticals just kind of hurt it, in my opinion.
The practicals were what did it for me, but the opticals were.
Plus, cameras were different
at that period in time. Not a lot of people were doing great optical effects like that, so it kind of.
Well, like I said, I think it was there.
What year was this?
84. No, that was 84. That was 91.
91. So 91. So this was probably a much lower budget than like say Jurassic Park, which came out around the same time, right?
Significantly lower.
Doing the research Fridays from what I heard, it was supposed to get a theatrical release, but didn't really get a theatrical release.
Gotcha.
So it had a larger budget than it probably looked. But on that one, you watch the direction of Dan O'Bannon on that one. He did really good. I don't know what happened on this one.
I am surprised to hear that it's 91 because it felt like in 85, 87.
It felt because the budget was so small. Yeah,
right.
I'm curious to see how much
that was older than that one.
Yeah. And that's why I keep getting confused. I keep saying 91, 85, or 84. I keep getting them backwards because you're right. But before we get to, let's end the story. So you meet the PI who has your favorite car.
Oh my God, the Saab.
The Saab convertible.
Horrible car.
The Saab soft top
worst
convertible.
douchebag car
What's
ever.
hilarious about that is Saabs are stereotypically some of the best cars on the road.
Yeah.
Like last forever, keep people safe. They're awesome things.
Yeah, but nobody's gonna
It's
fuck
the people that
anybody with
drive
a Saab. I don't want to have sex with somebody that wants to driving a Saab. That's not why you have one. You have one because you have like 3 kids and you're putting them all in the back seat, and if you crash, they don't die.
Or you're a private investigator. You just know everybody dies and everything.
Or
except the
zombies
Saab.
are attacking you and they won't crush your Saab. But
Maybe only Saabs had those giant cell phones.
that did have the old
Car
cell
phone,
phone.
sorry, with the giant
had the
car
old car
phone.
phone
Yeah,
in
yeah.
there too.
Or maybe it was that they knew they would be a great vehicle for puns in the future.
I'll play some of the puns.
That's gonna make me sob.
I'm just tired. Make me sob.
That joke's gonna make me sob. These jokes are really subpar.
I'm gonna sabotage.
If you pay attention, there might be some subliminal messages.
Very subjective.
Suppose you're right. That's a sob story.
Oh, you beat me to it. Gotta get them all out. Next movie, no more Saab jokes. We're there, yeah.
Maybe a few.
Maybe
One or two.
maybe that's where their budget came from. Maybe their money came from Saab. I mean, like that one Bond movie was purely paid for by the only movie Bond drove a BMW in, and not an Aston Martin. The whole movie was paid for by product placement of BMW.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
one of
that's
the Pierce
interesting.
Brosnan ones. But let's get. I'll say this movie, as enjoyable as the last quarter of the movie was, or maybe the last 1/3 of the movie. The first was just so boring. It was a typical. That's why it seemed like it was an '80s movie, because it had the
Much setup.
What the hell was that?
That was Antonio coughing.
Antonio coughing.
Jesus. Sound like a cat dying. It had the pacing of an 80s movie.
It did. It relied on the audience being bored and having nothing else to do.
He didn't say anything. He just smiled at me.
Great teeth.
Chris Sarandon, because he was, Prince Humperdinck.
Yeah.
Humperdinck.
I want to marry Princess Buttercup.
As he pointed out, he was in Fright Night. And
yeah, so it's hard to think of him without vampire teeth and that kind of thing.
He emphasizes the weirdest.
He's always baddie.
He emphasizes consonants when other people emphasize vowels. So remember, he's like, you too.
You must excuse my speech. I'm grown physical from this cursed river air.
I think he did a really good American accent, though, for a Brit.
Oh, is he British?
I think so. I could be wrong. Yeah. I'm sure people in the comments will tell us if I am.
Highly memorable actor, and in this movie, just as you aptly pointed out, acting circles around the protagonist.
Yeah,
a soap opera actor.
Soap opera, and it was wonderful because you could tell the difference between contemporary him and replacement him. Because in the plot, getting back to the plot, P.I. walks into this room in an insane asylum to investigate it, sees that there's a blood splatter explosion on the floor, then we start to flashback. And during the flashback, he meets the wife of Prince Humperdinck.
Don't forget your husband's social security number, please.
And she's like, what's going on with my prince? And he's like, let's investigate it. And he goes off and he starts to investigate it. As he investigates it, he uncovers all the supernatural H.P. Lovecraftian bullshit. And in the end, we find out that the crazy dude he's been seeing a couple times whenever he goes to this house in the middle of nowhere isn't Prince Humperdinck, but is in fact his grandfather from great-grandfather.
It was 150 years, so whatever generation, great.
Prince Humperdinck the first.
And he had been resurrected.
Then that's the whole plot of the movie.
The other guy's flesh.
No.
Or the transference of flesh from one to the other.
No, because on the one they showed it, he raised his great-grandfather from the dead, resurrected him.
Right, but he was too ethical.
Because he has to eat flesh and blood to stay alive and being resurrected.
And the modern version, the modern one was like, we can't, this is untenable.
Right.
Charles and I soon disagreed on the disposition of flesh.
So he kills him, eats him, and then continues on. And the clue, it was kind of obvious, but the clue he gives is you can tell when he switched over by his teeth.
Especially when my teeth are fixed.
You can tell when
I'm going to get my teeth fixed.
I'm going to get my teeth fixed, but also his manner of speech was super Victorian. I think it was fantastically written.
Thou art bleeding.
Yeah, and forget the thous. I wish they would have gotten rid of the thous, but the rest of it was the affectation was fantastic. Maybe that was just the actor being good, classically trained British actor.
I'm sure it was. But it was still very distracting because you just see the Fright Night guy and the Prince Humperdinck guy, so it's hard to get lost in the movie because you're seeing Chris Sarandon is not somebody that can get lost in a role. Let's put it that way. Once you see his face and once you see him doing something, it's hard to get lost in it. You know what I mean? There's some people that disappear, and he's not one of them. He's too good.
Who else is clever enough to make my Sandy Claus outfit?
But the makeup was really good too, because
his teeth were awesomely fucked up.
But when they would show, I think it was before he transferred. I have to look at that again. But you would see the wife's memories of him being all happy and looking nice and healthy, and then they would show him. It wasn't just we'll put red lines under your face and make you look ill. It was, his skin looked wrinkled and dry.
It was beautiful.
And it was a really good
Gorgeous,
job.
beautiful.
A couple times where he looked like he had bad jaundice.
Yeah.
Was good.
And, Michael Porter, was another one that was on this one. It was really astonishingly good hairdresser too. Excuse you.
Injecting mood.
Atmosphere.
Production quality.
Adding value. Now it went from a cheap set to an expensive set.
We can't see.
Pay no attention to the people.
Oh yeah, look at the kid.
That camera's gone.
Yeah. Your camera's fine.
Yeah, there's no smoke over here. What the hell? What the hell? I didn't want any production value. That's fine.
Is it going? There it goes.
All right, well...
Callie and I are
We have
fine
to
over
make
here.
sure your dingle balls
So-
are in the frame. There we go.
So while he's investigating, helping the wife track down like why her husband has locked himself in this house and is doing things, having deliveries all hours of the night. No one knows what's going on. She's worried because he's acting weird. So they go investigate. They later basically find a journal of his great-great-grandfather saying that he basically can resurrect the dead. And while looking at that book, it was kind of neat that it went from old writing and switched to same style writing, but with a ballpoint pen.
That got
ballpoint
lost
pen,
on me
yeah.
because I'm like, what the fuck is that going on with the ballpoint pen? What the fuck?
So, yeah, it's a neat little detail of showing that he's continuing his work. So it's
I'm glad
him
they
coming
did it on
back.
purpose.
All you need for proper witchcraft is some geometry and pentagrams also, like some chemistry diagrams, some geometry and pentagrams.
That's how you do that.
And you're good.
I mean, it's the Frankenstein. He found the Frankenstein book.
Yeah.
The Frankenstein diary.
And then, speaking of the
Frankenstein.
wife and when she got involved,
Frankenstein.
That's Frankenstein.
One of my favorite things in this film was you could tell what kind of cameras they were using by how the shaky cam looked. Like it wasn't shaking, it was like swaying because it was on someone's shoulder and had a 2-foot throw before the lens, and they're like,
Well, yeah, and he's trying. Basically, I think the director was trying to make these narrow hallways even more narrow, so they put a longer lens on it, which emphasizes any movement. And he's running down this hallway, and when you walk like this, so that long lens, and that just
But like when the guys are walking towards it, they're clearly on a dolly because it's a nice steady shot with the occasional little bump. And then when they're following him, it's like.
I feel it's one of those things where you see like the right makeup artist, the right wardrobe, like set decoration, all that kind of stuff, and then the DP makes decisions that are bizarre.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happened.
I think
was
the DP
they
made the
it look
decisions he could make at the
they made
time.
it look cheap. Where it didn't have to, because the music was great, the makeup was good, the costumes, the actors, everything was great, but the way they shot it was not my favorite. It made it look cheap.
Right, but honestly, too, watching some of the shots, to me, it looked like independent. To where it was like
that's a DP, not the director.
Well, no, I think it was a director. On part of the director was just like, we need to run this film out, so just keep shooting. And like, there's one part, the one that really gets me is where she runs out to the car. It's just a long shot of her running out to the car, and then he follows her the whole time. It's a very amateur-looking shot, but it's one of those ones that's like, all right, we want to get the shot. We got the shot, but we'll just run the film out. So we'll just keep filming her, and the editor was just like, "All right, we'll just use the whole. We need to hit 90 minutes. We'll just
use the whole thing."
Because there's a few amateur shots in there that I really think that was
the hallway stuff was really kind of like, meh.
Yeah, and that could have been a DP issue with lighting. We're going to shoot in this really small house.
Yeah,
with all our hallways.
It could have also been second unit.
But
that's what I'm looking at right now.
But it's like, where do you put the lighting in here's the house we have to shoot in. Put the lighting up. There you go. All right, we've got 2 electrical outlets and a narrow hallway.
Yeah. Make it work.
Yeah.
Your head's making so much noise.
Your phone's making noises too.
It's
Toad, shut up.
He looked down at the phone and then it went click. It's like both of you just at the same time.
It's Davio. Backface. No.
It's the visual effects guy from here. He's like, what are you doing watching my movie?
I think it was a really fun movie. It felt very
liked it.
Lovecraftian. There were parts, especially parts where they showed the house where the experiments were taking place in the countryside. It's almost exactly what I envisioned whenever I was reading the Dunwich Horror. Like a sort of small house with a larger outbuilding built onto it that just got bigger and bigger and bigger over time, and just on a hilltop. H.P. Lovecraft had some tropes. It was always like this lonely house on a lonely hilltop in the middle of nowhere with a neighbor that was like, I don't like what they're doing over there late at night, and people complaining, and then at some point they call in the police, and the police show up like the G-men that they are to try and like lay down the law. But they get it wrong. and nothing gets fixed.
Well, they did kick the door down, and they were right. There was no one there.
There was and they did take somebody out of there.
Oh, yeah.
But it was the henchman who was this Asian guy, and H.P. Lovecraft, racist that he was always writing about half castes and mongoloids and
but
mixed breeding.
I don't think Dan O'Bannon did that intentionally. Like, I think
he may not have done it intentionally, but it felt like H.P. Lovecraft's writing.
Really? Because all I saw was like the one guy at the door that it looked like he had pink eye.
Yeah, he had. Well, that's
I don't
because
think
He
that
was
was
the only non-white person in the entire film.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh
but
yeah,
you're right.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe if we speak about it, you might feel better.
Wow.
And he was the henchman.
Yeah, because he even pointed out later that he was covered in track marks. Because I even point out, look at all the Band-Aids on his arm. And then later, the actor, we don't know what he was in, point out that he was a drug addict. He said, see all the track marks on his arm.
Mm-hmm.
So probably that's how I kept him as henchman. He probably supplied him with drugs to keep him...
Oh, the guy that plays a private eye?
Really great modern
He's
take
got to
on
be
an
like from
H.P.
like soap
Lovecraft
operas or
Minion.
something.
No. His friend, the one that I said was from Fast Times.
Oh, God, I forgot to look at that.
So we
Hold on.
look that up. We can
Hold,
see what
please.
movie he was in. I said Fast Times.
I
thought
said
Teen Wolf. But
American. I said Teen Wolf too.
Yeah, but I think Teen Wolf is...
I just agreed with everybody because I didn't know. Somebody else said American Werewolf in London.
Yeah, I think I said that too because it was a werewolf movie. Because I thought he was in the werewolf movie.
But he sure did look like...
a sidekick.
Boof!
Not Boof. He looked like the
guy.
best... He also sort of looked like the best friend from Fright Night. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, that is not at all where I know him from. How funny. I have to go back here. Hold on a second. So, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, yes.
You're right. We're wrong.
No, because I said Teen Wolf first, and I was wrong.
And now
We're less pretty.
Yes.
You're smart.
Look at my hair.
Weird. It's amazing. How do you
Your
get that George
dingly
Michael look?
wobbles are
It
so...
is a dark Val Kilmer.
It's a dark Val Kilmer. One might even say wham.
No one would say wham. All right, so the house. So let's go with the house because you brought that up. The neat thing about the house was they showed the house. It was a full-size house, but jump to the end when they blow it up. The model of the house they blew up, look, it was hard to tell.
It was a really good explosion.
I mean, like most models, miniatures, when they blow up, it's the flame that gives it away. But so the flame gave it away. But when you look at the house blow up, it wasn't until the flame popped out and you're like, oh, that's a miniature because. It was a really good miniature of the house.
It was really good. It was like they it's like they built scale timbers.
I think
for the
our
entire thing.
resident fire expert had comments about that when we were watching.
He said it was bullshit, and he wasn't wrong.
Cut to
but it
the
was
part
really
of,
good
and,
bullshit.
Yeah, of him watching.
Yeah, because like in miniatures, it's always the flame that gives it away because the size of the fire. When you can slow it down to make it look moving like fire, but it never is actually the scale of fire. So it's really. It covers too much.
And
it's
fire
really
looks good on film because modern military explosives. Because in this he used C4 to blow the place up, and he used 3 little packets of C4 like this big
in the dungeon underground.
In the dungeon underground to blow it up,
Whole
which
thing.
would have gone off like 3 hand grenades and collapsed that tunnel and done nothing to the rest of the house. But even if it was a 2,000-pound explosive, it wouldn't have been a big fireball. It would have been a bright flash and a concussive wave and a lot of dust.
So yeah, they blow the house up and look good, but yeah, you're right. He would have blown up the dungeon. So we skipped over the fact that there was a dungeon.
Yeah, so they found the entrance into the underground. They went into the underground, and when they are underground,
which was cool. The entrance was cool.
The entrance was really cool. They had some flashlights, and it was great because they were kind of sketchy from the beginning. At least one of them was kind of sketchy from the beginning. So there's a little bit of tension. They're building up the tension. We were making fun of the tension because by this point we're a long breath into the film, right? And it hasn't been scary yet. And we're waiting for it to get scary. This is the time when it's supposed to be scary. The light's sort of working. Then they find a hole in the ground, and they look in the hole in the ground, and there is some corpulent thing down there that's impossibly alive, and it's tying together all of this. research bullshit and research shenanigans that he'd been looking
And
into
that's
the
the
whole time.
Lovecraft part too, is like the deformed,
Yeah. And then they shine the light up, and there's another horror just standing there in front of them.
Yeah.
They freak out. Oh,
Also
they drop the
scary,
light,
yeah.
and the lights go out.
Yeah, which makes it easier to film.
Well, no. Well, one part, I just got to correct one thing. One part is the torchlight went out earlier. Remember the torchlight went out. Torchlight, we're just saying the flashlight went out, and he took the lantern from the girl.
Yeah.
Give me this.
Give me
and
this.
then they go.
I will lead the way.
Yeah, and then when they see that mutant, he drops it.
He's the one that drops it.
And when he drops it, and then I gotta admit it was kind of neat what happened when he drops it. They start lighting the matches, and they would see it, and then it would go out.
Where the fuck are they?
And they're trying to light a match, so you would just get moments of flashes, which honestly is very Alien.
Yeah.
That scene was very alien in the air ducts when he's trying to track the alien down.
Well, I think like being claustrophobic is being claustrophobic and crashing around in the dark. I think that's what makes it scary in the first place. So
What felt different about
trying to
this
find his
between
voices
Alien? What felt different between this and Alien was in Alien, the alien was perfectly adapted to the dark. It didn't need light. It didn't have eyes. It could just find its way around anything. In this particular case, these things needed to see you just as much as you needed to see them. And so they couldn't find them if there wasn't light.
Not to be horribly insulting, but the difference between this and Alien was even written by the same, or written that concept was written by them. But like, you have Ridley Scott, who knows how to build suspense. You know, a master of building really good. Yeah, it's nothing like talking about suspense and going.
Oh, Ridley Scott's so good.
So you have Ridley Scott, who knows how to film suspense in that, and Dan O'Bannon, who did a good job, but there's a reason Ridley Scott
is Ridley Scott,
right? Mm-hmm. So it was still a neat scene. It looked like it was done in a rush. I mean, because the sets were. I think most of the money probably went to sets, because when we were discussing those sets, look kind of almost Indiana Jones-esque kind of. It was
the catacombs
really
were great.
Yeah.
And I was trying to place where I was trying to think, could I have seen these sets anywhere before? And I couldn't think of any other film that I had seen those exact catacombs in before. So I feel like they were bespoke for this film.
Might have been for a TV show. I mean, I knew it might have been a TV set.
Maybe.
Tales from the Dark Side.
This scene is also notable because this is where the detective loses his best buddy down into that hole with the horror. He loses Fast Times, and then they kick the monster down into that hole, kind of adding insult to injury, right? Like, two monsters to eat his buddy, and he's like... Well, we're not going to kill those things. We'll just leave him to his fate and move on.
That's one of those things. He's going to die down there by one. If we throw two, he might die faster. So less,
you feel like he could have thrown one of the explosives down there. Or at least I do.
That's true. Would have made it more...
Then you wouldn't have had the big blow up.
Yeah, you would have had a slightly less big bullshit.
Yeah, because it would have been closer and had the
one
explosion.
set off that tiny enough explosion to explode only in the tunnel, and then you had three of them blow up an entire house.
And what if the radio frequency wouldn't reach that far?
I mean, the radio frequency shouldn't have reached that far. That's not how radios work.
But it's a movie. It's not based on reality.
You know, he had a powerful cell phone, so maybe he had a powerful radio frequency. Maybe
that car cell phone.
Yeah.
It was so powerful that he didn't even have to watch the road when he was driving.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got through the cool part was underground was where some of the stop motion was, some of the gory, neat creature effects were done. Which that's why I definitely think a limited budget, because there's only two real creatures down there. And when you look at the work they did put in there, when he first puts that chemical on that little piece of flesh that molded out, it was a neat growth. Like, they did a really good job on that.
It turned into a creepy hand kind of thing.
I mean, everything was done. It was just everything was done well, but so few and so little. So that to me says budget probably.
Yeah.
Because it was that. So I mean, the underground scene, that's a scene that only thing I really remember from a kid from watching that was the underground. I remember them trying to, because when we first put it in, I was like, I don't think this is the right movie because I remember the underground. It looked like a castle. It looked like in a castle. And we're watching this. I'm like, this might be the wrong movie because how are they going to get to a castle?
See, I remember
until
this.
they get underground again. And then they're like, okay, this makes sense. And it makes the whole underground area feel significantly older. If you wanted to be immortal and be resurrected again and again and again, you just had to be comfortable with the idea that you needed to eat copious amounts of raw, freshly dead meat and blood.
I
It
feel
didn't
like
have
that's
to be
a
human.
Lovecraft thing
It could be
too.
cattle. It could be anything. But people were just like, we can't let him eat all this fresh dead cow and blood.
Did they say that? Because I think he only killed people.
Doesn't this seem like an awful lot of meat for just 3 people?
I'll tell you, it's more than we ship to most restaurants in a month. And nobody orders fresh blood but him. We got to truck that in special from a Jersey slaughterhouse.
Well, so he did kill some
cow.
people, but he was having stuff delivered to him. You know,
In the
ye
fridge
old
was
Uber
animal
Eats.
blood, wasn't it?
Animal
And
blood.
the fridge was animal blood, so he could have made it with just about anything else.
Maybe it's like vampires where they can get a little bit of sustenance from animal, but they need human.
It definitely felt like that
Did
because
vampire
again,
thing
when
come from?
No.
maybe
No.
no, but maybe the modern vampire lore came from this because
Bram Stoker was earlier.
sure Bram Stoker was earlier, but the
But
whole
he didn't write the whole animal blood versus human blood.
and that's what I'm saying, because there was Bram Stoker's Dracula for a really long time, but between like 95 and now, so many vampire stories have been written. Before that, there was just Bram Stoker, and then the occasional little thing like Nosferatu or whatever. But in this particular one,
I don't know when HP wrote that.
I know,
Lost Boys.
but I definitely got that vibe because Grandpa seemed like he would have just liked to eat people right out of the gates.
I must have raw meat. Not disgusting, seared, burned flesh.
He's like, if I could just eat people, that would have been great. But, you know, great grandson was like, no, man, let's do this with some beef.
Yeah.
And Grandpa was okay with that. So it probably would have worked on a long enough timeline, but it attracted a lot of attention.
Yep. Oh yeah, because he got locked away in a straitjacket. Well, first in a mental hospital or in a hospital, and then moved to a mental institution where he's in a straitjacket in a padded room. And that's where we come to where
The final confrontation.
Yeah, so it's kind of it comes back to the beginning where we figure out why at the very beginning there was a a padded room with a burn and blood everywhere.
Yeah, and when the private investigator kind of confronts the detective with all the facts, like, I'm sitting here in front of you in a position of superiority because you're locked in this institution, and
But you and I know differently, don't we?
I know what's up, so I'm going to get really close to you because I feel comfortable. And Grandpa's like, fun fact, I'm just going to eat you because I am in a mental institution. They're going to forgive me, and then they're going to cure me, and then I'm going to get out, and everything's going to be fine. Get my teeth capped, and I'm going to go off to be with that young lady that thinks
Ross's
she's my
ex-girlfriend.
wife. My great grandson's wife.
Yeah.
And everything's going to be great for me. Sucks to be you.
But then he stood up and just ripped out of the straitjacket.
Yeah, just...
It was actually pretty neat. And then the neat part when he does that, we point out his deep V-neck.
His deep V-neck. And Prince Humperdinck has always been jacked. And, that's an underrated fact.
That was pretty hot.
Like, you can see a scaling and stuff when he was
Yeah.
But then
thrashing around earlier in the movie.
pretty hot.
the makeup they put on him to show that he's not fully human kind of because at first when you just saw the deep V, I'm like, oh, is that tattoos or just really patchy chest hair?
Yeah.
But no, it's just that when he took his shirt off, you saw all the skin had these nasty patches of
If I remember correctly, historically, as far as makeup artists go, I think that around the mid 80s and early 90s is when gelatin appliances started becoming really popular, and so I think this was one of those movies where they used a lot of gelatin because that's what it looks like.
Yeah,
because when you're looking at his face,
hair.
well, not only that, but when you're looking at his face and it's so translucent and you can see all the veins and then you can see all the layering and stuff like that, that's gelatin appliances to me, at least.
Yeah, it looked.
We could ask Todd Masters.
Please do. I would love to. Yeah.
But
not we could. You could.
Right. But,
our protagonist is eventually saved by an orderly because he hits the red button on the wall. And
Saved.
Great grandpa is like, you think that will help you? And bad backhands him across the room because he's a supernaturally strong Lovecraftian monster man. And then an orderly comes in and says, "Hey, you start being orderly." And then he rips the orderly's head off.
He puts him up to the wall first.
And then just rips his head right off. And just kind of casually tosses it in the side of the room for a snack later on. And is like, now I'm going to come over and eat ya.
Yeah.
And then our main character gets nailed up against the wall, held by the throat, holds up the bottle of the elixir that looks a lot like mercury.
Juice.
That is kind of the catalyst for this whole resurrection.
Antonio said it was something.
That's something we forgot to mention. When he first came in, he revealed that he had the suitcase full of his
bones,
great-great-great-great-grandson's bones that the guy had eaten all the flesh off, stripped clean. And so he takes that catalyst juice, throws it across the room to land next to the bones. It catalyzes the bones, which starts to cannibalize the body of the great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather.
But yeah, but that was like a practical effect too. And there was, what's the chemical that, Antonio, what's the chemical that they were using to set that shit on fire?
Is he still up some? Okay.
The silver stuff?
Yes.
Fire juice.
Oh, it's thermite.
Thermite. Okay. Thank you.
Termites.
Highly flammable. If they eat anything other than wood, they instantly explode.
And they look like liquid metal. Yeah.
But it was,
Not to be tried at home, kids. Don't go out.
It looked like a thermite reaction, whether it was
Don't
thermite
set your
or not.
termites on fire.
Don't set termites on fire, and don't go buy thermite and try to set them. Bad idea.
But you can make thermite at home from normal household products.
Don't listen to him. Don't do that.
Go out and buy the anarchist. So he throws the catalyst onto the bones. The bones start to catalyze. Grandpa starts getting eaten. Cannibal, like the stuff catalyzes the transformation.
There's
Transformation
a soul transfer.
starts to sort of draw. Grandpa goes over to confront it and be like, "I'm gonna stop this."
Well, you saw the drawing in the
bones
book.
stand up and they're like, "I'm gonna get close to you." They get close, and then there's just this tissue transference going on. Really cool practical effect.
Oh, I thought
It was a little homoerotic at some point, too.
It really was.
Humpy. It was a little humpy.
Homoerotic. Would it be incest if you're doing? Yeah, it would be incest.
Yeah, totally.
Great grandson. It would be incest. But it was more. I thought at first it was going to be stop motion, but it was all just puppetry.
Yeah,
the skeleton was all puppetry. Which I thought
It
was
was
kind
a
of neat.
little humpy. It was a little humpy.
But I just mean, like, the fact that, I thought for sure you would see this, especially in this era, you would see the skeleton stand up in stop motion, but it stood up and you
Like
could
a
tell it was...
Sinbad movie?
Yes, but it was all puppets, so I thought, you don't see puppets like full-size puppets, like...
Yes, you do. We watched the Crypt Keeper one. He got up and walked around, remember?
Sure, he's just saying you don't see it a lot.
Well, yeah, but that was with a green screen background and all that. But I mean, this one was just, it looked like it was just like a puppet, like, done in the room, which I thought was kind of neat. But yeah, and then some really good visual effects of them merging, which you said was a humpy of
Yes.
visual effects of them
Some
being
fantastically out of place feeling rotoscopy.
Transfer,
and then,
French kiss.
And then some really bad
Deep
optical
Frenching.
effects. It looked cool and then ended weak.
Yeah, whoever that guy was in the crew kind of was the weakest link on that.
Yeah.
Then the private investigator takes the suitcase, closes it, throws it out the window, sets the scene to look like whatever happened, but it's going to happen while he's not there. Covers up the bite wound he's got on his shoulder by throwing his jacket over his shoulder.
Which was also weird when he just leans down and bites his shoulder. Remember? That
Well,
was
because
just weird.
he was getting ready to eat all his flesh.
But
Right?
they've got one hand that thing, and the guy has one hand, and then Chris Sarandon just kind of like chomp.
He was going to eat him, but then the orderly came in.
It was,
and
it was
interrupted.
weird how he just
Yeah.
chomped his shoulder out of nowhere.
Because he wanted him to suffer for a long time because he was a cruel, merciless guy.
I think it was one of those things where let's hurry up and shoot this part, and we'll get to the rest of the part.
Maybe, but it also made it possible to film the end of the movie where the guy covered up the wound on his shoulder and walked out of the place pretending that he's not hurt.
That was a pickup
and
shot.
he left. And it allowed us to end the film in such a way that we could see the film began the way it ended.
But also,
the real thing that's a real mystery to me is he talked through half of this and he still saw the whole movie. That's the weird thing.
Because you talked through the other half.
That's the other thing. How does he know what happened in the movie if he talked through half
But
of it?
let's just talk about one weird thing about the ending is the fact that that wife is going to be fucking looking over her shoulder the rest of her life.
Yeah.
Because she thinks her evil husband who tried to eat people escaped and she's going to be paranoid as hell, thinking, "Is he trying to get me?"
And that's a Lovecraft thing, which is
Yeah, but-
continuing
Commenting on
fear.
that at the end.
for
I was like, is it better to think he's escaped and alive somewhere, or better to think he's dead? Like he said it was like a kindness or something, I think.
But I mean,
it's scarier to think he's alive.
it's one of those things, like, because technically,
horror movie.
He wasn't evil.
Right.
The main husband wasn't evil. He refused to kill.
He wasn't evil enough.
So he was diving down the rabbit hole of the science where he was, as he said, interrogating the nature of matter.
Right.
Like he was trying to understand how the universe worked in a very interesting way, and he was so focused on this, as a scientist would be, that it was distracting him from just being a husband or a normal guy.
I understand how it was written as a story of like, oh, well, he didn't deserve to die because he wasn't evil, so they let him escape and get away. But from the wife's point of view, that's like the worst ending for her.
Also,
unless he tracks her down and convinces
the
her.
Lovecraftian subplot is, regardless of his ethics, he has now been resurrected this way, which means the hunger will set in.
That's more what it is.
And he will need to feed on flesh and living blood to sustain himself.
All right, so let's wrap this one
So
up.
did you just coast through school and get good grades and everything because you
You
can just
have
hear
no
everything
idea.
and you just test well because you can just keep on talking through everything?
I love how you guys had to deduce that when you could have just listened.
No, we're busy talking.
Busy talking.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, me too.
All right, so let's go through. Are you talking about Richard talking?
Which
I can't hear you over Richard talking.
Is that
your thoughts? Good movie, bad movie?
Okay movie.
Whoa, that was a high. That was I never heard an O that high.
Yeah,
it's an okay movie. I think it was, which is really funny. I think it was a really good script and an okay movie. I feel like a different director would have done this movie significantly better.
All right, your thoughts?
Quite a few thoughts, shockingly, compared to what I thought I would.
Excellent, I like that.
One, I can't really speak for the script because I didn't hear any of it.
She was sitting in between me and Richard. Poor thing. Sorry.
I did love though the horror tropes that kind of were featured in this, even if they weren't done amazingly. Like the whole light thing, where suddenly it's dark and then it's light, and it's kind of like that spider thing. When you lose a spider, it's scarier than when you saw the spider.
Yeah.
But I do think that could have been made better with better sound design.
Yeah.
Like if you had zoomed in on like the breathing and the flicker of the match, and it could have been cooler. Also the whole like plot line with the evil ancestor is featured in like Wednesday. And he just in general as a character reminded me a lot of Midnight Mass.
Oh yeah.
With the resurrected are youthful again, and even look wise, it was kind of midnight massy, but yeah. So I mean, I liked it. I can't say too much about liking it because I really have no idea what happened in the movie.
Sorry.
You're good.
All right. Me, honestly, looking at some of the special features, I kind of want. There's a commentary with the effects artist.
Yeah, that
Commentary
I'd like to
with
see.
the director. There's also some deleted and extended scenes. Extended scenes not so much, but deleted scenes. I'm curious to see like if there was more to the
homoerotic nature of the transformation at the end.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
They tongue kiss each other.
So when I was 13 or 12, this movie was really cool. Watching it now, probably because I've seen so many like gore and horror movies, it doesn't really stand up very well.
Yeah.
If you're a fan of the guy from Fright Night, it's worth watching. If not, nah. The movie was,
oh yeah.
The first 3/4 of the movie was boring as shit.
And if you're bored and you're a fan of Lovecraft and you're just looking for something to write that has some thick dialogue in it, then the last half of this serves pretty well for that.
But there's a reason we keep trying to talk about that movie. There's a reason we talked through the whole fucking movie. It was fucking boring.
Yeah.
The visual effects artist is the only thing made this movie worth it. Guy from Fright Night did a good job, but still Rush Fright Night. He's better in that. So really, other than the visual effects, this movie sucked.
And The Princess Bride.
I mean, I'm sorry, it did. It was boring. It was very amateur. A lot of it was very amateurish. The explosion at the end the miniature was neat, but the explosion was all right. Like, I like the concept, but like you said under a better director, it could have been much more. It could have been under a better director, or maybe just a different budget. Maybe he was just really restricted on some of the shots. But I
don't know. Does it say even how much the budget was?
There was a lot in it. And then before you look on that, what do you think about it?
It's like I remember seeing this, and it was in heavy rotation on HBO. I remember that. I thought I saw it in the movie theater, but no. But I remember liking all the creatures and the monsters and the blood and stuff like that. But I was like you, I forgot about the 45 minutes of setup that went in and all the talking and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I was bored the first 45 minutes as well. But
or you weren't, because you were talking to friends and family and the
or
living
that
room.
Yeah, I was talking to you. So and we were commenting and stuff. But I think like as a popcorn movie, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
it's a popcorn movie.
It had the pacing of an 80s movie, and it's shot in the 90s. It just had...
Well, it was 91.
I know, but still, it was just very early 80s pacing.
It had the pacing of an early 80s movie.
So that was a yes from you, a yes from you.
I would recommend it for other
yes
people.
for me.
But also, I love Todd Masters, so that's the other reason I would watch it.
But
I would watch it for the effects more than anything, because I think Todd Masters is a genius.
I'd probably say no on my end. I would rather just watch something like Midnight Mass.
And you're a hard no.
Yeah, but I mean, I went in expecting a lot, and then we followed it up by this.
Yeah.
It just wasn't even.
It's hard to compare.
All right, I think that's it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well then, a yes, a slight yes, and then a no and a real no. Cool.
Yeah.
Whole spectrum.
Yes.
I'm gonna fill this up.
It did
get more
a
tossed, and
Fangoria
we're gonna do the next
Chainsaw
film.
Award.
Oh, good.
I mean, I don't know about you guys. Every time I've tried to pee with a boner, like it feels like you're trying to pass like a blade through the urethra.
That's called syphilis. All right, that was fun. It was fun. All right, so the next one we're gonna do is another Dan O'Bannon one. Now, this is one of my all-time personal favorite movies, and I think everyone's gonna love this one because it is probably one of our most cult classic films.
The Return of the Living Dead. Oh yeah, this is gonna be a great time. He did this.
He technically wrote it. He rewrote the script and he directed it. I think that was his first direction, and then the Resurrected we just watched was his second.
Oh, that's incredible! I can't wait for this.
Well, you want to? Whoa! Come on back. You want to read the back?
Oh, yeah. Just when you thought it was safe to get back into the cemetery, those brain-eating zombies are back and hungry for more tasty mortals. A fiendish mix of outrageous humor and heart-stopping terror, Return of the Living Dead is a veritable smorgasbord of fun, filled with skin-crawling jolts, eye-popping visuals, and relentless surprise. On his first day of the job, an army surplus store, poor Freddy unwittingly releases nerve gas from a secret U.S. military canister that ends up at a surplus store, unleashing an unbelievable terror. The gas reanimates a corpse of corpses who arise from their graves in ravenous hunger for human brains. And luckily for those carnivorous cadavers, there's a group of partying teens nearby just waiting to be eaten.
Yeah, excellent. You ready for this one?
Yes, let's go.
Let's go. All right, let's get started.
Anyhow.
All right, so second movie. We got rotation on our panel, but second movie I picked Perfect for Halloween. This is going to be one of our, I think maybe our first cult classic we've done, really.
Yeah.
Probably one of the more popular ones we've done, and probably will do for a while. Return of the Living Dead.
Oh, shit! Look at that!
What the?
What do you want to do, Scuzz?
I wonder what's in that rain!
Mister, that graveyard out there is full of people coming out of the ground.
This was this first movie. Well, I think it was the second movie directed by Dan O'Bannon, but definitely his best movie. So the story is, so we'll go into a little bit of
Best movie he ever directed.
Yes. Not the best movie he ever wrote.
No.
But we'll go into a little bit of the nerdy behind the scenes on this. So John Russo was the co-creator of Night of the Living Dead. It was George Romero and John Russo. When the movie came out, they went their separate ways and split the rights. I may be wrong about this. Don't jump on my case if I'm wrong, but I think of the Dead rights went to Romero and Living Dead went to Russo. So
they split everything in
They
half.
kind of split everything. So that's why Romero went on to do Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead. And then John Russo, he made a movie do not see called Santa Claus.
Klaus.
Yeah,
I used to tell people that's how I got this
Claus.
scar, right? Like I stayed up late on Christmas Eve and I met Santa Claus.
CLAW.
So you might want to watch the movie then. It's bad. There's like a 20-minute scene of how he gets the Santa outfit. Like, it's just stupid. But if you also look, there's versions of Night of the Living Dead where John Russo added scenes to it, and it's bad.
Believe in cremation. We believe in the fires of hell. That's the Lord's way of punishing sinners.
Sure. I don't harbor any fears. It's not really him down in that box.
It's a time for punishment. And a time for forgiveness.
John Russo, I'm sorry, I don't want to insult people. John Russo's bad. It's why Romero went on to do some of the most classic horror movies. And not many people know him outside of this stuff.
For directing.
For anything. Because basically what happened was, I think the story was John Russo wrote the script to do the sequel, so it's going to be Return of the Living Dead, the sequel to Night of the Living Dead. And it got passed around. At one point, the rumor was Tobe Hooper got put onto it, which makes me interested because Tobe Hooper also did Poltergeist, and the one guy from Poltergeist is in this, so I'm wondering if he's like a carryover from that original one.
I have seen weird things come, and I have seen weird things go.
Or if they just work with the same casting director.
Possible, but the thing is, the story was that Dan O'Bannon got a hold of the script, rewrote it, made it much better, because if you watch John Russo stuff, he rewrote it and directed this, and I think he wasn't supposed to direct it, and then he just kind of, there was no one available, so he directed it. He did a phenomenal job with it.
Oh no, he got a job. What a dick!
When you compare it to the previous one, the direction of this one, that was after this is by far superior.
It's really good.
Which is why I was thinking that one might be budgetary wise, because he did such a good job with this. How could, maybe it was rusty because it was years later.
The thing is, he did such a good job with this, but is it a good job because he was good at his job, or was it that he did a good job because the kitsch matched the fun that people were into having, matched the genre, matched his vision? Because this is not a good movie, but it's a great fun movie.
But if you watch, like, there's amateurish shots in that. There's very amateur stuff. None of that came across here, which is why I was wondering if it was budgetary, or like Debra said, it could have been.
Or does he just trust his departments?
Well, you also have to remember, this is very specific. This is zombie, right? You have like the zombie, the vampires, the werewolves. You have those type of genres. This doesn't really fit into a genre of.
But this,
it's
both
like
of
a resurrection.
both of these were filmed before there was really a genre for those things. And granted, there were some classic vampire films,
right?
But I wouldn't say there was a vampire genre film until like the 90s.
I might disagree with that,
because there was the classic horror.
Yeah, but I mean, you have Nosferatu, you have Dracula, you have Frankenstein, you have these classic genres.
But I feel like that was the monster genre. Not necessarily vampire genre or werewolf genre. It was the generic monster genre,
the universal monster.
And then the band Typo Negative comes around and they tie the idea of gothic with vampire, and then this whole romanticized vampire thing, sexiness comes into it, and then you get into the vampire genre, and then werewolves are more like earthy and hairy and manly.
So is this this isn't the first zombie movie that's come out though?
Did you see that movie, Night of the Living Dead?
And this is where a lot of the tropes that came from zombie movies later actually came from. The brains.
Brains.
Like zombies eating brains.
Eating brains.
Came from this.
Right.
I mean, the fact that original zombies were the dead, they just kind of lumbered around. He's the first one that did zombies that could run.
Razor, I'll blow your fucking brains out!
Zombies that could think and use Tarman, use the weapon, use the tool.
They could speak too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were saying
for the
bring more
more, yeah.
paramedics,
Yeah.
bring more police.
Send more paramedics.
Before we go any farther, we should talk about the plot of the movie.
Yeah, let's jump into the plot of the movie. So how the movie starts. So Freddy is a new hire at this storage facility where they store shipping because they
Shipping.
Yeah, because he at one point he was showing them how to ship or how to pick out the right skeleton.
Storage
to ship.
and shipping, because they did some long-term storage there. Yeah.
Yes.
So when we meet Freddy, he's showing him the skeleton.
How to pack a skeleton.
Yes.
And
how to pick it, because he's like, there's a male, female,
Perfect teeth.
perfect teeth.
PT.
Yeah.
Perfect teeth.
Right.
Yeah.
MF, male, female.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the PT. Suppose you think that's pretty tough, but no, that's perfect teeth. Very good.
So he shows them how to pick
Even
that.
though they all look the same and they were all the same height and the same length and the same color.
And they all had the same steel brackets that are on plastic fake skeletons that hang up in every anatomy lab.
And the female skeleton that he pulls off is actually taller than he is, which is great. So,
And
yes.
he called him small.
Right, small, female.
Yep.
Perfect teeth.
You got his brain.
So they're working at a warehouse. They store things long term and they ship things out. And it seems like they're a medical supply company. What was the name of the place? It was
Unita.
Unita Medical Supply.
That's right.
So they're a medical supply company, and somehow they got these. Well, so he's teaching them how to, as you said, pack up this
Pick and
skeleton. Pick and pack the skeleton, and how to
Pack it and ship it.
provide peanuts. And it's first day on the job, and this is a kind of a great boss. He's just giving him all this positive reinforcement. You're going to do a great job. And then he brings him into the room, the office, and starts telling him a story that is the backstory, which is basically the previous movie, about how the dead rose once because of a chemical that the government released, and how at the end of the whole thing there were some bodies that were affected by this chemical that were like locked up in these government-made
That got
barrels.
shipped to the wrong address.
That got shipped to the wrong address. Well, what happened to them? They're right here. Is kind of the hook.
There they are.
His body's in there?
And they go down, he shows them the thing, or he shows the guy the barrel. They open the barrel, the gas gets out.
They don't
get
open.
gas.
They don't open the barrel.
They don't open,
the
right?
barrel. He Windexes it and he grabs a whole roll of tissues
Right, and he's like,
and rubs it on there, and then he's like, right from the government, and then it spits out. But let me backtrack
And they
just
pass
for a minute.
out.
Wait, yeah.
Hey, these things don't leak, do they?
Leak? Hell no. These things were made by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
But the title sequence, when it does the title sequence, is when it leaks out, you see the melting face, and then the glass just crack. Like, it's really just really cool. I almost wish it was such a cool sequence that you wish they didn't do the titles over it, because the titles over kind of distracts of like the face melting. It was a really good effect.
Well,
and they waited a long time for the title sequence. Sorry, go ahead.
You guys have just jumped the entire thing. Don't touch on my knife. You guys jumped over the entire thing. The first thing in this movie is the fact that this is based on true events, and all the actors, all the story is true, and the names have not been changed.
The names have not
been changed. So this is
Because
an
these people
actual.
are dead, so
This is like a documentary of zombies.
And it's shot only an hour from where we live.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't see where it was.
It was Louisville.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
Louisville,
I
Kentucky,
used to
yeah.
go there all the time.
Yeah.
So this documentary is based on a true story and actual events.
Who would have thought Dan O'Bannon could shoot such a great documentary?
Yeah. So I just want to be clear that that's how it reads and that's how the story opens.
There are more boobs in this documentary than any other documentary I've ever seen.
I feel like you gotta find one with more.
Yeah, you gotta. I mean, you just watch any of the the African.
No, those don't beat it. National Geographic. No, this one wins. So many
it's
boobs.
all
This is the only
all those
documentary I've
background.
ever seen with corpulent.
Corpulent boobs.
Yeah.
Brian's just like.
I'm gonna have to edit. All
I'm just
this
thinking,
out.
yeah,
This is going
how
on.
hard is it going to be to edit?
Thanks, Richard.
God.
Oh, save that. Oh, wait.
Oh my God.
Oh, good.
That's a good apple. Gas
Anyway.
leaks out.
Gas
Guys
leaks
are
out.
passed out on the ground. The gas exits the facility, gets into the HVAC of the facility, goes through the HVAC system into the refrigeration unit where it wakes up a corpse. And they've got to deal with that corpse.
Well, let's wait. When they wake up, they notice that the corpse that was in the container is gone. So he looks, he's like, "Where's it at?" He's like, "It probably melted." But
yeah,
it's
probably
gone.
melted, but I don't know. So they leave the basement, they lock the basement, smart, and then they're walking around the place, and then they notice the refrigerator doors shaking, and they can hear somebody screaming inside of there. They're freaking out.
We fucked her. Well, what's happening? It's the container!
Because they're high as fuck from the gas, but also feeling sick, but also the only person who could be screaming inside of there is the corpse hanging by hooks in his ears, which looked really painful.
It was
inside
also
the fridge.
because when he was hanging by the hooks in his ears, you notice that he's in a full body bag, but it only goes to like his shins.
Yeah.
And then his feet are exposed.
Well, where else would you hang it? You would damage it if you hang it anywhere else.
Well, normally I've always seen him hanging by the back of the neck.
I know, but you're going to damage
Hang
it.
through the ribs.
You're going to damage it though, but through the ears you're not going to damage it.
Yeah,
Because there are already holes. As they've said, there's already holes there.
There's already holes there. I mean, like, this doesn't matter for the purposes of what we're doing, but after having gone to Cadaver Lab, being an anatomist professionally, a massage therapist for a long time, and taking part in a significant number of anatomy labs, you don't want to hang a corpse from the head.
You believe this? He's saying his documentary's wrong.
This documentary is wrong. This is inaccurate.
But it's nonfiction. It can't be wrong.
Shame on you.
It's based on
Shame
true
on you.
events. Even the names are the same. How can you say that?
It says so on the internet. It has to be true.
It said at the start of the movie.
The start of the movie, that's exactly what it reads.
If you weren't talking, you would have saw it.
Yeah.
But the
He's
dude's
talking the whole
banging on the
time, right?
doors.
He's still talking. He's not stopping.
No, I can't get it because Richard won't stop talking.
The dude's banging on the door from the inside the refrigerator, so they decide they're going to lock the door, which was a smart move.
But then they unlock the door.
Wait, we're not there yet.
Oh, we're going to talk through the entire movie. We're not
We're
going
going to
to
something
fast track it?
they lock the door, but you got to introduce Bert.
Okay, Bert. Right.
You got to introduce Bert.
Well, if you're going to
So
introduce
introduce
Bert,
Bert.
no.
is a slave driver.
If you're going to introduce Bert, then you have to introduce the eye chart.
Bert is a slave driver and a cheap son of a bitch. Yes, Bert is a slave driver and a cheap bastard.
And a cheap bastard,
And
I
then
think.
something else, but it was too small. You couldn't see it. I'll try. Maybe I can freeze frame it and see if I can see it.
But they don't really talk about Bert until later. But then at the same time that this is going on, there's some punks in a car driving around, having a good time, and they go into the cemetery.
Right. It's actually, what's the character? Frank?
Frank.
It's Frank's girlfriend
Frank's
and her
girlfriend
friends.
And her friends. One of whom is the Scream Queen. You kept on
Yes.
talking about whose name we can't remember, but good God, did she like to be nude on camera?
Do you ever fantasize about being killed?
Never.
Linnea Quigley.
That's the Scream Queen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Linnea Quigley. She's
Linnea
been,
Quigley.
you look at, I can throw the movies up. She's been in a load of like 80s, 90s horror movies. Topless all the time, which
was wonderful.
Show some fucking respect for the dead, will you?
Linnea, thank you for that. Appreciate it.
2 thumbs up.
we'll zoom in on you for that one.
A rise in my knife, Linnea.
The wick is itchy.
2 thumbs up. Swing.
So they're waiting for Frank to get off work.
They're waiting for Frank to get off
So they
work.
decide to go. They see a really cool cemetery, had a really cool that said "No Future" on the front, spray paint on there.
Yeah,
So
they're like, let's drive around for a while. I was like, I don't have like that much gas. And
Yeah.
like, let's go into the cemetery. Cool. I don't mind driving my car through the locked gates.
well, no, that was later.
No, they break it.
Yeah, they break
They break
into
the
it.
locks, and then they walk
So
in.
his name was Suicide. So Suicide decides, or no, Trash, who's Linnea Quigley. Her character, she loves hanging out in the cemetery. So they decide they all go there. They go out in the cemetery, and then out of nowhere, Trash decides she wants to get on top
It's
of.
not out of nowhere. She starts talking about her fetish, which is the idea that
5
being
men
killed by a bunch
eaten.
of old dead men coming to eat her.
To get around me and start biting and eating me alive.
Yes.
Being very, very sexy. She's turned herself on with this kind of like auto-cannibalistic
And then she strips
sexy
down
story.
to nothing and gets on a gravestone and starts dancing.
Like a little
and then
tube.
all of a sudden they bring out
Road flares out of nowhere.
From nowhere for lights,
Which is
decoration.
great. Well, because the little line you didn't hear was one of my favorite lines in the movie when she's taking her clothes off. He's like, "Can we get a light over here?"
Get some light over here.
And
Which is a great, it's a great line. She's taking her clothes off again. Hey, can we get a light over here? Like, it's funny. And we discussed it over there. Does anyone know the guy with the checkered jacket on? What movie he was in?
No.
Which was actually quite a few years after this. There's only one movie I know him from. He was in Point Break. He was one of the dead, or one of the dead presidents.
Really?
Yes, he was. Yep, that's the only. Yeah.
With Keanu Reeves.
Yes.
So one of the other punks, I couldn't place him, African American, and he's just got this face, and I recognized him, and I'm like, where have I seen this guy?
It must be the enchiladas.
Must be every.
Oh, hey, you okay?
Oh, some damn enchiladas.
So he was himself on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He was himself in something like he's been in 150 different things. I have seen him everywhere, but I couldn't place him from anywhere.
Because he was only him.
Yeah, and you were correct. He was in Friday the 13th.
Yes. Which is the enchilada joke. It's one of the best lines from the entire series.
You'll feel a lot better after you shit.
I feel a lot better when I'm out of here.
I'm not a huge Friday the 13th fan, but I love that line.
And he's one of those guys that has looked young his entire life.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to look old until he's about ready to die.
What was that? Joanna Man. He was Joanna Man, wasn't he?
He was left with only one option.
I'm here. No one's gonna believe you're a woman. You did.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
He was Joanna Man. It just popped in my head. Oh, I bet she was. All right, so
Joanna Man, is that the name of the film?
where he plays a female basketball player. The guy who played Suicide was also he died a long time ago, but he was also in Friday the 13th.
Well, if you're in Friday the 13th, you probably died unless you're Jason.
Well, I mean, he died for real.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he died at a very young age.
Okay, so we digress. Let's get back to the movie. Here we go. What are you doing? What's that for?
Rest in peace.
All right, so they lock the zombie in. They lock the banging doors.
I can't believe you just finished the stripping scene. Like you just kind of.
I already gave a swing.
There's people in the graveyard. There's a lady stripping in the graveyard. They're cutting back and forth between the medical supply company and the graveyard.
Unita.
Eventually, their boss for the medical supply
Bert.
company shows up. Bert shows up and convinces them that what they need to do is open that refrigerator and put this pickaxe through this dude's head. Wait, it's not even a pickaxe, it's just a pick. Through this guy's head. And you stand here and you get ready to open the door.
Why?
I'm going to stand back here and hold on to the shelves because that's helpful.
Do you remember why do they want to put it in his head?
Because he thought if you hit him in the brain, because in the movie,
Yes.
if you hit him in the brain,
That's going on,
because
yep.
they reference the movie
Yes.
in this movie.
They reference
Which
that
is
in the
hilarious. In this documentary, they reference the fictional movie based
Yes.
off of true events.
Yes.
In that movie, they destroyed the brain to kill him. Is that what they did? The brain, right?
And
I'm
so
gonna
they get
keep
ready
this
to do
real the
that
whole
thing.
time.
When they open the fridge, nobody is prepared for the absolute blitzkrieg of this human painted green running
man.
out of the fridge straight at the dude holding onto the shelf.
And not
did
green.
He did help in the end. He was the bait.
Right.
Bert ended up being the unwilling bait.
Standing behind everybody. Like zombie runs past everybody else to get to him. Doesn't bite him or anything. They manage to get him off. They hit
And
him.
then Bert gets the axe.
They
the
pickaxe
pick.
him, and he pickaxe him through the head while the other guy's holding
And
him.
he's still
Doesn't
moving.
stop him.
Nope.
Right, because the line, it worked in the movies.
It worked in the movie!
Well, it ain't working now, Frank.
You mean the movie line?
And then they slowly hacksaw his
They cut
head
him to
off.
parts.
Why do
they
they
cut
have
him
a
to pieces of
pick?
parts.
Open
Because it's
crates.
a medical supply company.
You need a medical supplies.
You need a pick.
Guess
You
so.
don't know why. You just need one.
Yeah,
so
maybe,
they-
maybe to open crates.
Then they
But with the pick,
They
she makes a
dissect
good
him.
point.
they dissect him and put him in. They put him into baggies, and now they have to figure out how to get rid of the body.
And they
How to
decide-
actually stop it.
Well, that went down my lungs and I can feel it burning.
All right. Yeah, so they decide, they go through what they can do. What kind of acid would destroy the body and the bones. They can't figure it out, and they realize there's a crematorium next door.
Right.
So they can't throw a whole body in there, so they cut the body up, put him in baggies, and go over to the most interesting guy at the crematorium.
Yeah, a Nazi dressed in burgundy scrubs and a
Bleached hair,
apron.
bleached white hair.
Right.
With his bleach white hair and his dollar store discount Luger.
Yes.
Like the shittiest
No, he had a Luger, but he had like a pearl handle on it. It was a
yeah, but it
fancy
wasn't
pearl
a
handle.
good Luger. Like so there's Lugers and then there's knockoff Lugers.
They're all
and that
Luger.
was
They're
a
all
knockoff.
pieces of shit.
That was a knockoff.
Yeah. So he's embalming a body, and they break in, and he goes to almost shoot one of them with this ridiculous.
It's like, oh,
Right.
you're my friend.
Right.
It's okay that you broke in.
Right. And then they decide to incinerate. You know, they tell them that they're rats or something in
Rabid
the bags.
weasels or something?
That was shipped by
weasels.
accident.
Yeah.
But he's not buying it because he's
No.
nobody's fool. This guy worked with Hitler. He knows better.
Yeah.
Well, no, he bought it first. He just said he didn't want to burn him alive. So he took his gun out and said, let's just go out back and shoot him.
You just can't burn animals alive. It's just too hideous, isn't it?
So they
And they-
eventually showed him a disembodied hand that was still alive.
Grabbed his leg, which then and then he ended up cutting off the pant leg completely.
Yeah, because
So
it
that-
tore his leg.
'cause
They
it
tore the leg of
pants.
his pants.
And then they.
Tony, are you on fire?
So then they
Chef set fire.
incinerate the body, but they want to also incinerate the actors.
Which this, by the way, could have been another perfect spot to have like a credit title sequence. Because as they incinerate the body, they play some awesome music
Oh,
and show
yeah.
the smoke going up in the air, creating the acid rain, raining down, starting to create the living dead. But so it's funny because for me, that's the part I remember from this movie, and I thought this movie was the OG Living Dead movie because I didn't see Night of the Living Dead until 10 years after I saw this movie.
Wow.
I saw this movie first. I thought this was the first zombie movie. I thought it just was relying on itself when it was talking about the other movie.
Yeah, because this one became a cult classic pretty. I mean, this one was on TV. I mean, all right, so we'll show Frank.
Frank.
Is
Yes.
that, no, Frank's the
main guy.
Frank's the old
character.
guy. Who's the boyfriend?
The boyfriend is
Is it
wasn't it?
Freddie.
Frank?
Freddie. Fuck. Freddie has a shirt or a jacket that says "fuck you" on the back.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the word was you could tell if you saw the made-for-TV version or the real version because I think that the jacket on the back one says like TV version or something like that for the re-edit. They made it. And so the theatrical got "fuck you" and the TV got like TV version or something cheesy like
That's
that on the
hilarious.
back. So yeah, but yeah, so this one was on TV quite a bit. Back in the day. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be too surprised if I saw this one before I saw the original.
Okay, so are we not going to address the fact that when they break into the cemetery, evidently the name of the cemetery is Resurrection Cemetery?
It is Resurrection Cemetery, and we watched Resurrected right before that.
Resurrection Cemetery.
Which you
Somebody mentioned that while we
Yeah.
were watching the movie.
Yeah, but also too, didn't you mispronounce the Resurrected as a Resurrection?
During the we were talking about
Resurrection.
What we were gonna see. The Resurrection. Yeah, well, we get the font is.
He said Resurrection.
Resurrection.
I am dyslexic.
So they go back to the we cut back to the cemetery. Trash is still naked, just sitting there, and they're talking. And then since they burned that body, as you said, the smoke went up and it started raining. They all ran to the car because it's a point for later in the movie at the end that the rain was burning. It was an acid rain.
It was an acid rain, so they
really
run to the car
hurting.
to get it on real quick because it's burning all of them and it hurts.
It's a rain! It's like acid rain!
And around the same time, the two people that got gassed earlier when they were cleaning off and slapped the container, they're feeling so sick. So sick, and they're unhappy, and people are starting to notice they look sick.
Right.
And the dead start to get up out of their graves.
Yes.
And the dog.
And the dog.
Oh, yeah, we missed the dog.
half dog.
Go ahead, tell us about the dog.
A little dog that was, I don't know, how did they find him?
They heard it.
Was he barking or?
Yelping, yeah, kind of.
Okay, so it's like whimpering or something, and they go and find him, and he's split in half, like vertically.
It's a taxidermy
Yeah,
thing.
it's a taxidermy, and it
dog.
shows like all like the muscles and
Right.
stuff inside, and he's just yipping away, and they just completely brutalize this like
With a
foam
cane.
structure.
With a
crutch.
Crutch.
Yeah.
With the foamy end of a crutch.
Well, yeah, but
Because you panic. You don't know what you're doing. You're swinging
Right.
at it.
But when they hit the dog, it's very proppy looking.
Right.
Because it just
It's not-
concaves
it's
and
not
then
a puppet.
reforms and
It's
concaves
not
and
responding.
reforms.
Well, and also the butterflies in the
Yeah, they start to come
Unita,
up.
the butterflies start moving. Everything that was dead seems to be coming alive.
Yeah, and all of them are suffering from the pain of being dead, which
So-
we learn about later.
The one I want to get into was I think it's a really well written scene, and I don't know, it was just when the paramedics show up and they're examining Freddie and Frank. And they're examining, and it was just really, I thought it was really well done because the one guy's like, hey, can I see your stethoscope? He's like, why? He's like, mine's not working. And he's like, I don't think it's the tools. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, and they switch.
Right.
He's
Yeah.
taking blood pressure, and he's like, yeah, I've got no pulse.
0 over 0.
Yeah, he's like, blood pressure is 0 over 0.
That made
Can I borrow your stethoscope?
What's better?
I can't hear anything through mine.
Well, are you sure it's the equipment?
Come here.
Right.
And they go
They
over,
go
he's like,
over
we're
there,
going to talk.
no, you stay there.
Yeah, and when he comes over, he shoves, he just kind of stiff arms the guy, like, nope, we're going to talk.
Right.
He's, what are you doing? What are you talking about? And they're discussing, and he comes back, temperature, he's like, yeah, it's 70. What's 70?
Room
Room
temperature.
temperature.
Like, it was really neat just how they, like, just broke that down. Of,
Right.
like, because you know they're sick, and they're probably going to turn into zombies, but you're following in with those paramedics of just, like,
And that's one of the things
discovering it
that
with
got me
them.
about it because that was so well written. Because the way they said it, like, you're dead, but you're conscious.
Right.
Because technically, you're not alive. Except you're conscious, so we don't know what it means.
When later when the paramedics are looking at Freddy and they show his whole back all black and blue, he's like, oh, the blood's pooling because he's been laying on his back. The makeup was phenomenal.
That was
really,
phenomenal.
really good.
The black and blue on the back was just wonderful. I mean, I really loved seeing that, and that was really well done.
Lividity.
And then when the zombies are trying to get in is where we get your zombie boob. Your zombie boobs,
Yeah,
which
the
I can't
corpulent
show you there. Yeah,
breasts. Watch the film, you'll know.
which was good because I forget.
Was it that, or was it? What time did the half zombie chick that they
She is
tied
that-
down?
that's the
song.
Oh,
So-
no, that was my zombie. Those are my zombie.
Yeah, but he was the one asking for zombie boobs first.
I was like, hey, because honestly,
Boobist,
okay,
you
listen, if
said.
you're going to be honest about it, like if you're going to show boobs, you need to show dead boobs and living boobs. Otherwise, it's just smut. And they showed dead boobs, so it's not
factual.
just smut.
And it wasn't factual because it's a documentary.
Yep.
They had to document what
Right,
zombie
clothes
boobs
are going
were
to rot off of zombies. There's
Right.
going to be some naked zombies out there.
Right.
Well, yeah, especially when most people are buried with their suits actually cut down the back because they just lay them over top. So when you get out of if you would get out of your coffin and stand up, your suit would just fall off.
Well, and the great thing about the zombie, the half
That's
zombie,
how they dress them. They just dress them from the front.
the great thing about the half zombie lady
I
was
had no idea.
the animatronics the documentary of when she was actually cut in half. She was
And you can see
leaking
her spine.
spinal fluid, but she was leaking spinal fluid. They even took the time that when it was
Yeah.
moving, it was dripping spinal fluid
Such
as she was
detail.
talking.
It wasn't quite the right color, but yeah.
Listen,
Especially for being
It's the
rotting
thought
for
that
so
counts.
let's see if it's going to be the right color.
No, you gotta go for the spine.
Well, I was just going to take a finger first.
Yeah, let's go for the spine. Let's go. Let's go.
Let's see if we can reanimate it.
But yeah, but when they bring her in, she basically they pull the one guy out, and she just bites into his head. And when they pull her in, the blood is just spraying all in.
So wonderful.
And they cut her in half to get it in.
And they got her upper body.
Yeah, so they tie her down, and this is where.
Talk to her.
Why do you eat people?
I'm pretty sure the mortician was the only really useful character in the entire film. Like, he had his head on straight. He was the one that was guiding everybody to barricade the thing. He was the one that wanted to capture her to question her. Everybody else was like, let's cut her into inch pieces down. He's like, no.
We need to learn.
We need to learn.
Right.
Yeah, and
Cherry Davis.
This is where the zombie of eating brains came from. It was never, and the Night of the Living Dead was never mentioned. Mm-hmm. And
so this is the OG of zombie brains.
It was zombie brains because she explains that they eat brains because death is painful, and brains are the only thing that reduces the pain.
Reduces the pain of being dead.
Yeah.
And this is it's the most significant
works
example.
for the movie.
I guess.
Before we skipped Tarman.
We did.
We skipped over Tarman.
So he was the one who was initially in the barrel.
Correct.
And he emerges at some point.
That's when the girl comes down the stairs.
She's looking for Freddy.
I don't
he's
think
in
we
the back.
have skipped over Tarman because I think
Yeah, we did.
Tarman comes in pretty shortly. Was it before or after that?
He's after with the girl, but he's the first one to see that he's the first zombie that comes out at all.
Okay.
So in the very beginning, that's when the first brains happens.
Brains.
Is he the first zombie?
He's the
Other
first
than the
one that
yellow
says
guy.
brains.
The green guy from the door.
He's the first one that says brains.
Yes, you're right.
First one to say brains, yes. Tarman.
I don't know when they run into him, but
They run into him first because the first person to die was suicide. And when they bring the girl in half, the other guy gets killed. So suicide's the first one to die. So they run into Tarman first. Basically, the girl goes down looking for Freddy, looking for him, but he's over at the crematorium, not at that warehouse. When she goes down there, Tarman jumps out. She runs up the stairs. The stair gives away.
Falls through the stairs. Tarman crawls up the stairs behind her. She lets go and then hides in the cabinet.
But what the story is, apparently Dan O'Bannon broke that stair and didn't tell the actress, so she would get a real fall. And she was not apparently very happy about that. And yes, she goes to hide in the closet, and Tarman goes to try to break her out of that closet.
He can't break it out. He's not strong enough. And he figures out how to use the winch and
we
the
don't figure
chain.
that out. Then Suicide and her friends come down looking for her.
He's already using the winch to open the door.
But we don't see that until they come down, and then we see him. He's cranking that when they're coming down.
Right.
And the door comes off, bam, right when they're on the stairs. They're there just in time to save her. He bites Suicide's head. Suicide bites the bullet so that they can get away.
Yeah, because while he's cranking it, as soon as it opens, Suicide opens the plastic. Like, what the hell? Who's doing this? Look at, and as soon as he sees that Tarman brains, and then bites into him.
Right.
And and then
with his big teeth. Brains.
And then that's when I think they split up. Some of them run. Some of them.
Which, by the way, how does somebody without lips say brains? Brains.
So Tarman is a phenomenal character because he moves so well. He was a really cool looking.
Which
shocked that he's not
Brian
a
was saying
dancer.
he was actually a Jim Henson puppeteer, in costume.
Yeah.
Which makes sense why he moved so well.
Yeah,
he had
'cause
an
he
idea.
had
He had
arms
ideas
and-
about movement.
Yeah.
And how it would read on camera.
Yeah.
Well, what happened was when the paramedics went out, they got caught by the zombies that were already
The zombies
out.
were waiting in ambush. There was a zombie dressed as a police with a light.
Yeah,
That's later, but
that's later. Basically, when the paramedics went outside to get more help, they were both attacked. The one that was in the front, the other one went out because he heard something and was attacked. And then while they were being eaten,
A zombie heard the radio,
And
called
called for more
send
paramedics.
more
Right.
paramedics.
Send more paramedics.
They showed up, and as soon as they got out of their vehicle, zombies
Just
jumped them.
Yeah.
And then you heard the dispatch said we have two ambulances that are not responsive, so they send cops out.
Right.
And then when the cops go out, they get ambushed.
Right.
So it just keeps growing. The more people that comes out, the more they get ambushed.
Razor, I'll blow your fucking brains out!
when they're eating brains, it's actually calf brains. They're raw calf brains that they're actually. The extras got paid extra to eat that, and even the director said that he wouldn't make them do something that he wouldn't do, so Dan would eat them as well to show that they're safe to eat.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So they're actually eating raw calf brains.
Fun fact: calf brains are not safe to eat, and don't do it. Don't eat raw any brains ever.
Usually the black guy dies first.
He didn't?
He didn't. He actually survived till the end. The neat thing is, the story was Frank decides that he doesn't want to turn into a zombie anymore, so he puts himself in the fire in the crematorium and burns himself.
Which was so cool. He snuck out while everybody was fighting the young kid who was trying to eat his own girlfriend's brains, who decided to stay in the chapel to keep him comfortable. Frank he snuck out past everybody just so he could get down there and burn himself.
To burn himself.
The neat part of it, too, is it was the actor's idea because he was supposed to be working with Freddy to get them, but he was tired of being out in the cold, wet rain, so he just said, "Can I just kill myself in the fire and just be done?"
Some big favor. I can operate that goddamn thing.
Because like a lighthearted, cheesy comedy type film can still have character moments like that, and I was not a fan of Police Academy.
Yeah.
It's okay that we disagree.
Right, and then
agree to disagree.
I will kind of branch off a little bit on this. Is they made a sequel to this called Return of the Living Dead 2. Surprise. The same two guys who did Frank and Freddy are in it, playing different characters, but the same thing happens to them, and they make a comedy out of it. And it is the biggest piece of shit movie where they bring Tarman in, and he looks like crap. Like the makeup is terrible. The comedy is just stupid as hell. It was such a bad movie. And so I always say, when you watch these movies, there's a whole series of them. Skip 2 sucks. Return of the Living 3 is kind of neat. It goes back to the military trying to make a weapon out of it.
Okay.
And it's kind of neat because it's very early 90s. It's about a guy who wants to move to Seattle with his girlfriend to start a band. It's a very early mid 90s.
So they're following your career, they're following kind of your life.
But the third one's kind of fun because it goes in the military. Then they made, I think, like 4. They made one called, I think number 5 is called Rave to the Grave, where there's zombies at a rave. Like there's just a bunch of them. But 1 and 3, raving zombies. 1 is phenomenal. We just watched. 3 is fun, not quite as good as this one, but a good sequel. The rest of them just don't even consider.
Speaking of originating things, this will be my segue into what I was thinking about earlier. I had thought, because I knew Thriller came out, the song, in 83, and so I assumed the film had come out in like 84, give it a year to make film or something. But no, it came out in 83. So all those moments that I kept saying that Thriller like pulled from this must have pulled, because like there's direct scenes like where they've barricaded the door with the couch, and he breaks through the door and stumbles and falls,
and you see
rolls.
The hands come through.
All the windows, the hands through the windows. All those scenes were done by John Landis first.
When you're picky, that was actually in the Return of the Living Dead, so it might have been done by Ramiro first.
But
the hands were coming in.
Not just the hands, like the whole like. Specifically through the door, where he comes through the door and does like a somersault over the thing and then stands up. It's the end of Thriller music video.
Well, first they call the police.
Yes.
Bert called the police, and then the police get attacked and overrun.
Right.
So then he sees a number on the canister for the military. He calls the military.
Right.
And there's a long, drawn-out scene of the military process going through.
Yeah, where this general is just very matter-of-fact and is like,
writing down.
And when did this happen?
And what did they do?
And what did they do?
And
then
how
what
did that
did you
happen?
do? And what
then
happened
what
next?
did she do?
And then what did
So
you
we're
do?
going to recreate the very boring scene in the movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now what?
And he's left-handed.
great.
He was left-handed. Not right
So
now.
when it was all done,
left-handed.
You're going to talk to the colonel now,
So here.
and he hangs out.
I can cut their mics out. When it was all done, they called a military strike, and a missile came in and blew up, what do you say, like 30 blocks of Louisville?
Yeah, it was like a big chunk of it. I don't know.
Yeah, it was like a huge block of Louisville. So it's a huge block of Louisville. He blows up they blow up the entire city. And then why I said it was really interesting why you had to listen to
They blew up the entire city with an artillery piece. They fired a nuclear artillery piece. That was fun.
Exactly. And you hear them reporting, yes, we blew up the city. We hit really close to target. Everything's good. There's some rain and some people reporting about the rain burning, but we're all fine. Which I thought was a really neat, because, when it happened, when they're saying the acid rain was burning, now there's a big fire.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to happen again.
Spectacular results, sir.
We're going to start with you this time, because we ended with you. Oh, no. No, you were middle, but we started with you last time. Yeah. So we'll start with you this time. What do you think? Would you recommend?
I liked it. I would recommend. It was a lot of fun. Yeah. I think it's a great Halloween movie.
Excellent. Well, we know we can skip over me, and we know, I love this movie. Always watch it. Yes, watch it. Now that I own it, I'll probably watch it every year. I recommend this one, and Dawn of the Dead are the 2 zombie movies you should watch.
How about you?
You're next.
Yeah, you're next.
I'm next? Okay. So, as I said before, and you can cut most of this out if you want.
So that was a yes from you.
70 hours of a game.
And
that's why Richard does what Richard does, and why we can't really watch a full movie, because he'll get on this kick and...
That happens. I'm sorry.
The final yes or no.
Absolutely, all day, every day. This is a zombie movie that needs to be watched.
All right. Well, then, to say goodbye, I'm just going to smoke us out.
Really smoke us out.